afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Joyce Virtue, and it is my honor to be chair of the City Cultural Commission. It is our pleasure to welcome you to Play Ball, our commission's tribute to the beginning of the 2015 Major League Baseball season. Wait, we have a lot of applause coming, hold on. At this time, I would like to introduce our commissioners. Suzanne Matthews, who is vice chair, and it is her birthday today, Suzanne. Suzanne, come up, we have a card for you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Susan. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
And anybody else who has a birthday in April,
raise your hand if you have a birthday in April. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
How about May or June?
We're going to have fun today. Okay, the other people on my commission also are Julie Childers, Frank Furino, who had a big role in today's play ball, and of course, Sally Tradman. Thank all of you. I also want to thank Mayor Iris Smotrich and Councilman Richard Kite, Mayor Kite is here today. Would he please stand up so we can all applaud him too? He's done a fabulous job. Who have given the City Council has given the Cultural Committee their special attention and support throughout the year. And we appreciate the hard work of our library director, David Bryant, and Susan Cook. And we could not do this without them. They are our secret weapon, who have gone all out in assisting the commission. So now, let's get ready to play ball.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you could be with us today. Some of us are diehard baseball fans. If I were not standing here today, I would have been the librarian at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, because that job was offered to me some years ago. But I'd rather be here doing this today. So thank you all for coming. I want to give special appreciation to Frank Furino, my great friend, and as Joyce said, one of our commissioners. Frank thinks he produced this show, but I produced this show.
Let's stop right there because I'm close to the stairs. I did produce the show. He, deferring to him because of his stature here in the library, but don't let that get in the way. And there is a third man here you may want to bring into
We'll maybe meet him a little
later. Okay. But I did produce the show. Thank you.
And what baseball game of 9 innings, which is what you're about to see, would not begin with a ceremonial first pitch? So take a look.
We're about ready for the first pitch ceremony. Mayor Smotrich ready to toss out the first ball.
Hooray for the mayor.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a nice round of applause.
That's a wicked two-seam fastball.
And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Tori Smith. Tori, would you like to come up, please? Tori is going to sing our national anthem. Well, I think we'll be seeing Torrey at Dodger Stadium soon enough.
Take that, Roseanne Barr.
Amazing. Now, to tell you a little bit of the background about how we did produce this show, or how I produced this show, and what we were thinking was this. We thought we would give to you a show. We knew April, a lot of our snowbirds are leaving, but we wanted to harvest as many as we could, and of course our locals who are tough like we are and we stay here. And we thought, well, we can maybe fill up the auditorium if we do a show on soccer, curling, fencing, darts.
Didn't we talk wiffle ball at one point?
Wiffle ball was a consideration. Golf, we've tried golf before. Golfers would prefer to be outside playing golf than in here. We've learned that the hard way.
We came close with curling.
So we really confronted the age-old issue. And we're going to see a clip right now which really explains it better certainly than I can. But there is an age-old battle between baseball and football. Let's figure out how that battle goes.
I'd like to talk a little bit about baseball and football. Starting with baseball. Baseball is different from any other sport in a lot of different little ways. For instance, in most sports, you score points or you score goals. In baseball, you score runs. In most sports, the ball or the object is put in play by the offensive team. In baseball, the defense puts the ball in play, and only the defensive team is allowed to touch the ball. In fact, in baseball, if an offensive player touches the ball intentionally, he's out. Also, most sports, the team is run by a coach. In baseball, the team is run by a manager. And only in baseball does the manager or the coach have to wear the same uniform the players do. Can you picture Bill Parcells in his New York Giants uniform? Now, baseball and football are different from one another in other kind of interesting ways, I think. First of all, baseball is a 19th century pastoral game. Football is a 20th century technological struggle. Baseball is played on a diamond, in a park, the baseball park. Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium. Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life. Football begins in the fall when everything is dying. In football, you wear a helmet. In baseball, you wear a cap. Football is concerned with downs. What down is it? Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? Are you up? I'm not up. He's up. In football, the specialist comes in to kick. In baseball, the specialist comes in to relieve someone. In football, you receive a penalty. In baseball, you make an error. Whoops. Football has hitting, clipping, spearing, blocking, piling on, late hitting, unnecessary roughness, and personal fouls. Baseball has the sacrifice. Football is played in any kind of weather. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, mud. Can't read the numbers on the field, can't read the yard markers, can't read the players' numbers. The struggle will continue. In baseball, if it rains, we don't come out to play. I can't come out to play. It's raining out. Baseball has a 7th inning stretch. Football has the 2-minute warning. Baseball has no time limit. We don't know when it's going to end. We might have extra innings. Football is rigidly timed, and it will end even if we have to go to sudden death. In baseball, during the game in the stands, there's kind of a picnic feeling. Emotions may run high or low, but there's not that much unpleasantness. In football, in the stands during the game, you can be sure that at least 27 times you were perfectly capable of taking the life of a fellow human being. Preferably a stranger. And finally, the objectives of the two games are totally different. In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line.
And it's all true.
In baseball, the object is to go home. And to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home. Safe at home.
Is that the Great George Carlin, ladies and gentlemen? And interestingly, that sets the tone for why we're here today, because there is in baseball the ability to have a good time, to see some great athleticism, and to laugh. Now, to make that point, you may remember a film called A League of Their Own, and in that film there was a moment in which another very, very important dictum of baseball, a law that was laid down, which must be remembered here today. Can we see that, please?
Say, Evan, can I ask you a question? You got a moment? Which team do you play for?
Well, I'm a peach.
Well, I was just wondering, because I couldn't figure out why you would throw home when we've got a 2-run lead. You let the tying run get on second, and we lost the lead because of you. Now you start using your head. That's not luck. That's 3 feet above your ass. Are you crying?
No.
Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Why don't you leave her alone, Jimmy?
Oh, you zip it, Doris. Rogers Hornsby was my manager, and he called me a talking pile of pig shit. And that was when my parents drove all the way down from Michigan to see me play the game. And did I cry? No. No. And you know why?
No.
Because there's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in baseball. No crying.
So, have we made our point? There will be no crying here today, hopefully. Mr. Bryant, as a producer, I need to just keep the thing moving. Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a very important announcement. How many of you have been to Dodger Stadium? And how many of you were in Dodger Stadium somewhere between 1980 and 1997? 17 years. Many of our attendees today, thank you. That's when the great Helen Dell was at the Wurlitzer, the enormous Wurlitzer organ at Dodger Stadium. And she is going to be with us today. We're bringing her out from LA. We sent her. Well, there's been a problem on the freeway, and the car broke down that we sent for her. Does anyone here have any keyboard talent or any...
Anybody, can you help us out?
The gentleman in the front row. Would you want to
sir.
give it a shot?
Can you come up here? I hope he's good, David.
He looks like he's ready to go. He's a producer also.
Yeah, right.
The great Bill Marx.
Bill Marx, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Bill Marx, and I'm going to be playing in place. I'm actually going to pinch hit for Helen. I'm sorry she got hung up on the freeway. And I want to tell everybody that this is one of the great joys of my life, to be able to fill in for Helen, because she was one of the top organists of all time at baseball stadiums all over the world from the beginning. So if I may indulge you.
got big shoes to fill.
That was pretty pathetic. Let's try it once more. Let's just consider that your rehearsal. Here we try it once more.
Yeah!
Better. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that rousing welcome. I'd now like to introduce a man who needs an introduction. But better than that, I would like to defer, if I may, if you can direct your attention to the giant Codgetron over here, directly in front of you. And a man with greater importance than I will now give the introduction to this man who so desperately needs it.
Hi, this is Bob Costas, and there's not much I can add to what you have heard and will hear tonight about Bing Crosby, the legendary entertainer. But I can tell you a story about Bing and baseball. As you may know, Bing was a good athlete, loved sports, played golf, outdoorsman, and actually was a collegiate baseball player at Gonzaga in Washington State. Eventually, that interest in the national pastime led him to become a 25% owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates beginning shortly after World War II. For part of the time that Bing was an owner of the Pirates, Bob Hope had a piece of the Cleveland Indians, by the way. But in any case, Bing's Pirates, at least at the outset, were pretty terrible, finishing last often in the early 1950s. But as the late 50s turned to the 60s, the Pirates became a very good team. And they won the National League pennant in 1960 and faced the mighty New York Yankees in the World Series. When Game 7 rolled around at Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, series even at 3-3, final game, Bing was in Paris. Why? Well, as he told the story, he was so superstitious and felt that he would jinx his team, couldn't possibly be at Forbes Field. So he's listening to the game in a friend's apartment somewhere outside Paris on Armed Forces radio. But he took the precaution of having a friend make a kinescope of the game off of black and white television. And I guess when Bing came back to the States, he watched it once or twice and then, satisfied, stuck it up on a shelf. There it sat in the Crosby wine cellar until Robert Bader, archivist of the Crosby estate, while looking for other material, came across a box marked 1960 World Series. There was this dusty box, right alongside the reels of Road to Morocco and Going My Way and who knows what else. So Bader, curious, took it down, thinking maybe it was the standard 1960 World Series highlight film, half hour or so that you show during rain delays, at least they used to. But when he threaded it through the projector and pushed the button, here is what he saw.
Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, the seventh game of the 1960 World Series. The New York Yankees versus the Pittsburgh Pirates.
We're underway in the payoff ball game of the 1960 World Series.
So Bader had discovered a long-lost treasure, because for half a century, no one had seen this game. He had the full original telecast, and in good condition. He was kind enough to share it with the folks at the Baseball Network. And we realized that this game, never seen in its entirety for 50 years, would really mean something to the city of Pittsburgh. Partly because the Pirates, at present, are in the midst of a run of 18 consecutive losing seasons, so anything that reminds them of when they were good has to be a good thing. So we went to the Byam Theater in Pittsburgh. The place was filled, and among those in attendance was Bing's son, Nathaniel. We showed the game, with many of those who played in it, Yankees and Pirates both, in attendance. It led to moments like this.
7-6 New York. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And Hal Smith hits a drive to deep left field. The ball is way back out there going.
So in addition to everything else, in addition to being an Academy Award-winning actor, to being the best-selling recording artist of all time, it turns out that Bing Crosby, baseball fan, actually has contributed something to the history of the game he loved.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Bader.
Mr. Bader.
And incidentally, I really like pretending being the producer.
The operative word being pretending.
I bring that podcast everywhere I go. I bring the tape of podcasts everywhere I go. The great thing about that discovery is that when I called Major League Baseball, they didn't believe me. They said, "Oh, you must have the highlight film." I said, "It didn't take me 2.5 hours to watch the highlight film." So I actually couldn't convince him first, so I called Bob Costas, who I'd known from years ago, and he got very excited about it. So that's how the whole thing really came to be. But, I found it in 2009. Not a great story to have it for the 49th anniversary. So just held on to it for a year. But, Costas knew me as a huge New York Mets fan and Yankee hater. And his first question was, well, I feel my great contribution to all this is finding visual proof of perhaps the most crushing defeat in Yankee history. and Costas actually asked me, what would you have done had the Yankees won the game? He said, that film spends another half-century in Bing Crosby's basement. But, the connection for me as a Met fan and the Pirates is, of course, Ralph Kiner. I grew up watching literally every Met game I could get away with watching.
Here.
And I was just telling someone else, when the Mets were really, really awful, and everybody thinks of the 62 and, those few years being the really awful Mets. The really awful Mets were the late 70s and early 80s when I was a kid. And my mom would say, "It's 8-0, just turn it off and go to sleep." I said, "Nope, gotta see Kiner's corner." And it's true. Ralph Kiner means a lot more to Met fans probably these days than he does to Pirate fans. He was just a big, important part of growing up with that team. And I know he had a lot to do with this area, as did Bing Crosby. And just in the interest of full disclosure, Costas made that recording for a tribute to Bing Crosby at the Paley Center. We just kind of stole it today. So you may hear a few more things about Bing Crosby, but you're not in the wrong room. There's not a lot of stuff about Bing being said next door. It'll be more about Ralph and baseball. But Bill, you have something to show Mr. Kiner.
I think it's about time to take a look at this particular piece of film clip that the man, aside from being a fantastic ball player and a great home run hitter, was a very articulate guy. Frank, you know that.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I thought he was one of the great spokesmen for baseball. And I think we have here a clip, do we not, that describes better than and we can tell it, the kind of spokesman Ralph was. Bob, do you want to set up this clip for us?
This is actually another piece of footage that came out of Bing Crosby's archive. It's a great joy to be involved with that archive, and I get to preserve and deal with all this old film and tape. And this was from a TV show called The Christophers, which Bing appeared on a couple of times, but in this particular one, shot somewhere in the neighborhood where we are right now. Ralph was on there because of his connection to Bing and the Pirates, and just take a look at it. It's quite wonderful to see Ralph at this point.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, there's Ralph Kiner, the home run king. Ralph?
Yeah, Ben?
Come over. I'd like to have you know Father Kelder.
Ben Hogan, by the way.
Father, how are you?
Ralph Kiner.
Ralph, glad to know you.
You have a second to speak to him just a minute?
Certainly have. You bet.
Well, I see your friend over here.
Okay, sure. Please sit down. I've heard a lot about you, Father. Well, I've heard more about you, Ralph. I'll watch you from afar. The thing that impressed me very much about your work is that it was hard work.
Well, Father, I'll tell you, I figure all things being equal, that if you have the talent, just semi-talent, not extra talent, just average talent, and you go out and work a little harder than the other fellow, you're going to have to come up a little higher in the averages than he will. And I've spent quite a bit of time perfecting my swing and batting, especially on home runs, and I know that I'll go out, well, before a night game and probably hit maybe 45 minutes, especially when I'm not hitting the ball too well, just to get my timing down and more or less work it out from there. And I think it brings results. In fact, I know it does, because all through my life, from the day I started to play baseball, I think I worked a little bit harder than the other fellow, but I loved it. It was really fun to do.
Oh, that's great, wonderful. Well, that's the very principle we're trying to get people in this Christopher movement, to get them to work. You know, a lot of people like to let somebody else do it.
Well, I tell you, I think that you get your biggest thrill out of the fact that you have your accomplishments. When you do work hard and you see the results there, you really get a kick out of that.
Yeah, well, that's the way the Lord intended it. I mean, if you put it, he said you get out what you put in, and so you reap.
You might get out a little more than you put in, you know, it could fool you.
Oh, yes. Well, I certainly feel in this work, I get out so much more. But most people have talent they don't even know they possess. And we try to remind them, we say that you can do things that you hardly believe you can do. And all we do is point out, but we say hard work is necessary. And I think the example of a person like you showing that you just put in time, like a pianist. A lot of people like to play the piano, but it takes good, long, hard work and preparation.
Long practice. I tried to do it in golf. I think I practice in golf more than anybody else, but so far it hasn't showed up in the result yet.
Well, it showed up in Ben Hogan. Keep going. Well, I appreciate the time that you have taken to give us a little thought here out in the golf links, and I'm sure it'll meet a great deal of people all over the country to hear this emphasis on hard work. Most of them are trying to tell us to take it easy, and we're trying to tell them to do a little hard. I really believe that if enough people, or even a few people, work very hard for peace, it might save millions dying.
Certainly be worthwhile.
It certainly is, and I always feel that God will bless us if we work. He'll do his part. All we have to do is ours, yeah. And as we get all along with our work, we're reaching millions all over the country, and it's the fascinating part to me is that people suddenly realize they can do something, no matter how small. We say, don't try to be anything more than you are. I can't hit home runs.
That's right. Yeah.
But I can work, I can at least try to work as hard as you do for what I'm attempting.
Well, each person has to pick out their own individual aim.
That's right, yeah.
Work towards it.
Yeah, well, that's all the Lord expects us to do our best. Sometime, if we could ever get together, I'd like to talk to you more about this. And,
I'd love to.
Here's Ben.
Ralph, how are you hitting?
Oh, Ben, I can't hit it straight. If I could hit it straight, it'd be all right.
Feel sorry for you. Listen, could you meet us up at the clubhouse later? Bing and Bob's going to be up and sing a couple of songs.
Gee, I'd like to, but I have to go in time to a baseball players golf tournament that we're going to have.
Well, that's too bad. We'd like to have you.
Gee, I'd hate to miss it.
Baseball players golf.
There's going to be a lot of people hurt.
Sorry, I couldn't get in on that.
Everybody's playing golf nowadays, Father.
Well, fine. Well, God love you. Well, thanks, Ralph. Why don't you stop off? Thank you, Ben.
Get him straight, Ralph.
Sure, nice.
It's a wonderful boy.
There you go. Great Ralph Kiner. And one of the things it points out to me, and I wasn't in New York when Kiner's Corner, I already moved to Los Angeles, I was a Brooklyn boy. But to have that kind of an articulate voice, that kind of an articulate spokesperson for the game of baseball, I think helped the Mets a great deal with that kind of...
There's a man down front. Frank.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. Ralph Kiner, the great baseball player, the spokesman, yes, for, I think, a great articulate spokesman for baseball.
The guy who said Luis Aparicio is the most ubiquitous shortstop in the
Well, all right, so we have... I'm sorry, who are you, by the way? May I ask? Wait a minute. Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Kiner, Ralph Kiner's son, if you will. Come on up here. You're here, you might as well come up here. Now, let me just say, Mr. Kiner, that so he had one line. Jerry Coleman was a friend of mine. And if you know Jerry Coleman was a great baseball player. He also was the announcer for the San Diego Padres, which was when I knew Jerry. And Jerry was the king of saying the wrong thing on the air. I mean, one of the lines that comes to mind, he says, he's throwing up in the bullpen. So you want to compare that to Ralph Kiner?
Well, let's see, my father did once say, it's going to be caught.
Okay. Well, that was Jerry Coleman talked about Dave Winfield. He's going to the wall. He's hit the wall. He's hit his head. It's falling off. It's rolling to the backstop. Come on.
My father once said, on this Father's Day, we want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy birthday.
I know you guys have talked and you know Kinder's Corner, so I got to
actually
let
have
them.
a favorite of mine. When the Mets were going pretty rough one time, they fired Yogi Berra and made Bud Harrelson the manager. He was just a quiet guy, and he wasn't intense, and everybody was complaining, and Ralph wanted to defend him. So he said, a lot of quiet guys are inwardly outgoing. I knew what he meant.
Tell us about your dad a little bit. Off the field, what kind of a guy was he?
My father was born in Santa Rita, New Mexico, which is a town that does not exist today. It was a mining town, and the mine actually ate the town. His father, he was an only child. His father died when he was 4, and his mother, my grandmother, who was an orphan, took him to Alhambra, California, where he grew up. And he was signed right out of high school by the Pirates for like $3 grand. And he then wound up going into World War II. He was a naval pilot. And after 3 years, he was honorably discharged and went back to the Pirates for spring training. And which, by the way, was held in San Bernardino in those days. He hit 14 home runs. Now they're making a big deal about Puig hitting 4 home runs this spring training. He hit 14 home runs that spring training. They brought him up immediately. He led the National League his first 7 years in home runs. And he led the Major League 6 years in a row in home runs, which is, to give you some perspective, Babe Ruth did it 5 times. So my dad holds the record for the most consecutive years leading the majors in home runs. He was traded, well, a cute story. My dad was the highest paid player in baseball at $90,000. And the general manager of the Pirates, Branch Rickey, cut his pay, there was no union, by $25,000 the maximum. And my dad held out. He did not report to spring training. And Branch Rickey came out to the house, which was here at Thunderbird Country Club. And he said to my father, he said, where did we finish last year, Ralph? My dad said we finished last. And he said we could finish last without you. So he took the pay cut, and then Branch Rickey traded my dad to the Cubs. And he played 2.5 years for the Cubs. He had a 10-year career, finished with the Cleveland Indians. His roommate was the late, great Al Rosen, who just passed away here in Rancho Mirage. And my dad said of Al Rosen, he was, in his opinion, Al was the greatest player never inducted into the Hall of Fame. But when the Pirates came along with the 1960 World Series, my dad was asked to do color commentary for a television station in Pittsburgh. And from there, he got an opportunity to be the voice of the White Sox in 1961, and where he came up with that Luis Aparicio line. But because of that and his experience in baseball, he was asked by George Weiss, the new president of the New York Mets, the expansion team, if my dad would come and be the voice of the Mets when they started in 1962. And my father asked him why he was asking him. And Mr. Weiss said, Ralph, we figure you have a lot of experience with losing, and we're going to be really bad for the next couple of years. So he went off.
Marriage made in heaven. Right?
So he went off to New York. Little side note, in the video you just saw with the priest, that was actually shot at Thunderbird Country Club. I could see my dad's house in the background in one of the slides. He used to have a pitching machine, and he's right about hard work. In the off season, he would drag the pitching machine onto the golf course and take batting practice. So you couldn't do that today, but he did it back then. Anyway, so he went on to a great career in broadcasting, and he's probably, as you stated, better known as a broadcaster today than he is as a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Now let me ask you something, because there is this notion about people like Jerry Coleman with malaprops, Yogi Berra, your dad. Did he work at that, or was it just off the top of his head and what came out, came out?
He says he said it on purpose, but I'm not buying it.
Either way, he left a hell of a legacy to the game of baseball, both on and off the field.
Well, you know, malaprop is part of the game of baseball, and there's some incredible malaprop out there. My favorite Coleman-ism was apparently Pete Rose had his 44-game hitting streak had just ended, and then he came to play the Padres and he got a hit. And Jerry Coleman said, if he had gotten that hit before the streak ended, they'd be throwing babies out of the upper deck.
We'll end this inning with one quick personal story on Jerry Coleman. He ultimately became the announcer for the Padres, and we had become friends when ABC. I worked for ABC, and we had hired Jerry to do some sports.
Well, you should mention that he was an outstanding player for the New York Yankees.
He was well, we know he was an outstanding player for the New York Yankees. Yes, indeed, I should say that. Second base, as I recall. But in this case, he was announcing for the Padres, and he invited us, myself and my then girlfriend, to come to the game at Dodger Stadium to see the game between the Dodgers and the Padres. And we went, and Jerry is sitting there, and here's the glasses here, and we're sitting right behind him. And it's second or third inning, and the pitcher at the time for the Dodgers was a guy named Joe Ferguson. And Joe Ferguson appears to pitch. There's a high fly ball to deep left center field. That thing is gone. And I'm behind Jerry Coleman going, yes, yes. And he's going, shh, not the Padres, shh. Anyway, that takes us, I believe, gentlemen, to the end of our second inning, and we move now to the top of the third. Bill, I think
well,
that's...
as you can see, I'm not wearing a Major League hat here. I'm wearing a Hollywood Stars hat. And I grew up from the time I was 4 years old. I almost lived at Gilmore Field in Hollywood, which is now where CBS television is. But all of the people in Los Angeles was either a Stars fan or an Angels fan. And so many of the people I knew embraced the Hollywood Stars. Especially, it was Hillcrest Country Club, which was a Jewish country club. And there was a ball player on the Hollywood Stars team who was a good hit, no field kind of guy. His name was Herbie Gorman. Herb Gorman was one of the best minor league hitters. His lifetime average was .311, played 4 or 5 seasons, and one day they're playing a doubleheader on Sunday, and the second game is a 7-inning game so that they can go on to they used to play a 7-game series. And Herbie went 4 for 4, and in the first game. In the second game, he came up and he singled up the middle, and then about the 4th inning, some people noticed that Herbie's lying down in right field, which, I mean, he wasn't a very good outfielder to begin with, so it really didn't much make any difference. And he's lying there, and they go out, and Herbie died in right field. Yes, he did. And suffered a massive heart attack, and the people at Hillcrest all raised a toast to him that evening. At least he went out batting 1,000. And we had it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, Gilmore Field. Pacific Coast League was the premier minor league at that particular time. As a matter of fact, they had a working agreement with the Pirates by then. And a lot of the players like Mazeroski and those guys went up to the majors. But all of a sudden, one day, it came to be that the Stars had to disband and leave town because the Brooklyn Dodgers had decided to come out to the coast. And we were heartbroken and disconsolate, and the whole thing. I can't tell you how badly I felt to not be able to go to Gilmore Field anymore and see the Hollywood Stars.
Oh, I mean, stop. Stop. You're breaking my heart here. So a couple of guys who could barely hit the ball lost their jobs. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, when not only were the Dodgers in Brooklyn, New York, but there were the Yankees. And you had Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. The Duke. When the Dodgers left, by the way, does anybody know the original name of the Dodgers? The Trolley Dodgers. Very good. You know why they were called the Trolley Dodgers? Because in New York, there were these trolley cars, and if you dodged them, not to get hit somehow. But that was not their original name. Their original name before the Trolley Dodgers was the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. Swear. Go figure. But in the meantime, now we've got Duke Snyder, and you've got Pee Wee Reese, you've got Roy Campanella, you've got Gil Hodges. My God, I mean, it was a religion. And then in Ebbets Field, one of the great baseball stadiums, when I was a kid, my mother's office was across the street on Bedford Avenue from Ebbets Field, and when Dad would take my mom, we'd go, and you could hear the game going on, and suddenly you'd hear them scream, and you'd look, and you could see a ball coming out onto Bedford Avenue, and you waited 16 guys to grab that ball on Bedford Avenue. It was a religion. So who cared that you lost your people? We lost the Dodgers, and I'm sorry.
We lost a right fielder.
Okay, as the producer, I'm going to offset that with the notion that when you got the Dodgers, not only did you get all of that, you got Vinny. My God, you got Vinny. There will always be and will never be one Vinny. As there, by the way, now that you've got the Dodgers, there will always and ever be one Tommy. Oh, you got Lasorda out of the deal. I mean, when we were in Brooklyn, Lasorda came up for a cup of coffee, as they'd say, as a pitcher. Made his mark as a coach, obviously, and made his mark as a manager. My notion here is that we were going to segue from here.
Yes, we're going to take a look at a little bit of Lasorda. It wasn't a particularly emotional fellow, but
Tommy made a name for himself both on and off the field. And having said that, there are some classic Tommy Lasorda moments from his days as manager. And if let's take a look at a couple of them.
Tell you what I think about it. I think that is very, very bad for that man to make an accusation like that. That is terrible. I have never, ever, since I've managed, ever told a pitcher to throw at anybody, nor will I ever. And if I ever did, I certainly wouldn't make him throw at a 130 hitter like LaFay or Babakwa, who could hit water if he fell out of a boat. And I guarantee you this, when I pitched, and I was going to pitch against a team that had guys on it like Babakwa, I sent a limousine to get the to make sure he was in the lineup, because I kicked that every day in a week. He's a big mouth, I'll tell you that.
Okay, so there's one piece of Tommy's career in which he made
that's an aberration.
An aberration, because normally when we talk about great spokesmen, he was articulate in his analysis of games. And there was a moment, as I recall, was it the Dave Kingman game? Am I right?
Yeah.
In which Kingman evidently really.
He's a little bit more profound in this one.
Yes, he has a great take on a player who just showed the Dodgers what it was like to be their puppet. If we want to show that and show you how Tommy handled that with aplomb.
What's my opinion of Kingman's performance? What the performance? Jesus Christ. My opinion of this performance. Jesus Christ. Fucking game. And you asked me my opinion of this performance. Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just a tough question to ask me, isn't it? What is my...
So you can see. When he had to be articulate and when he had to be analytical, he obviously could be. I'll tell you what gets me. Can you even remotely imagine what Lasorda might,
Well, let's watch this one piece of business that happened last year at Dodger Stadium, and then try to imagine what
for those
Lasorda
of
would
you
have
who
said
are-
had he
yeah.
been the manager.
If you are Dodger fans, let's roll that.
Let's roll.
This was perhaps the low point of not only Dodger season.
High pop fly, shallow center. Here comes Puig. Close to first base, and it gets away, so the runners are going to advance. The throw by Ellis now goes to center field. Here comes, are you kidding? That goes all the way to the backstop. Around third, and coming to the plate, Kershaw gets out of the way, and the run scores. I can't believe that. Holy mackerel. Yeah, look at that look on his face. Yeah, that sums it up. Wow. You want to look at that again?
Oh, yeah.
Kershaw says, I don't want to mess around with him. That's the smartest thing of the night. Yeah, it's hard not to keep a smile on that one.
That's worth seeing again.
Broken bat. Shallow in center. Will that drop? No. Puig able to run it down, then he throws it away. And going to second base, and into center field it goes. The Padres might get a run thrown to the plate. It's offline. What's going on here? A little league game is broken out.
A little league game.
The Padres are going to try to score here, and they do. That was a hot potato flying around the place. My goodness. Look at Kershaw. He's trying to save a bad throw.
Wow.
And the pitch to Romero is a fly ball into short center field. Sprinting in is Puig, and he makes the catch. Now he throws back to first, nearly a double play. The throw gets past Gonzalez. Now backed up by Ellis. The throw goes into center field. Nobody covering at the plate. That throw goes wide to the backstop. And going to third base is Liriano. Now he's on his way home, and he'll make it. That may have been the ugliest play of the year for the Dodgers.
Well, that's going to make a low light career. It will not be a highlight, but it'll be on the low light, and it won't be very entertaining.
I say we got to see it one more time in the first stage.
First, a high
Something
fly ball.
different.
Booped into shallow center field. Long run. He'll get there. Puig with the running grab. Everybody scurrying back. His throw to first base got away. The runners will move up. Puig with another mistake, but they have a play at second base. They throw that at second base. They would have had the runner, but it's missed. It goes to the center. The throw home as the runner to come home. And the Padres get Solarte home. Throw it away again. Now they'll throw to the plate. Not in time. Liriano will score. That was as bad a defensive sequence of any team this year, I believe, in highlights that I've seen live or in person in Major League Baseball. That was pathetic. And Puig, as usual, as erratic as can be, was in the middle of it. Brutal, just brutal.
He kept, every time when we were rehearsing, every time they do another version of it, I kept waiting for a different ending. We show it one more time, Ken. And then we started talking and said, can you imagine what had Tommy Lasorda been the manager of that team, what might have happened? And who was it, Bill? You said that somebody...
I managed to get the radio broadcast, and there was a post-game interview, and I think we have it, Dustin. I think we have it, don't we? Maybe
Dustin?
How could you ask me a question like, what the performance? Jesus Christ.
Ah, yes.
That says it all.
That says it all. The great Tommy Lasorda. Well, we ended up having to live without the Dodgers, and then of course I moved to Los Angeles, and then I didn't care that they came to Los Angeles, so it all worked out in the end for us. And I think that takes us to the end of the third inning, does it not?
It certainly does, and I think David is about ready to discuss something rather
Well, part of why we love this game, all of us who are here today, are the traditions, the great traditions in baseball. And two of our best baseball arenas, they're not stadiums, they're ballparks, are Wrigley Field in Chicago, which has been undergoing a major renovation this winter, held up in some cases by snow and bitter winds and low temperatures for concrete to cure. So there's been some snags there, but Boston very quietly has been renovating Fenway Park. It hasn't gotten very much coverage at all. So what you're going to see now is a look at what's going to happen at Fenway.
Red Sox Nation was thrilled today by news that Fenway Park will undergo a massive antiquation project to restore the ballpark to its original 1912 design. For more, let's talk to Onion Sports Network's senior baseball analyst, Jim Ridgway. Hey, Mark. Jimmy, the organization's really embracing the Fenway faithful's sense of tradition, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the Red Sox fans don't need some shiny new ballpark with seats facing the field or leg room.
Mm-hmm.
They want Fenway the way they were remembered.
Right.
Sight lines and fire exits be damned.
Yeah, the Boston fans love their nostalgia. That's why they're reinstalling the old splinter bleachers.
Exactly. They're twice as narrow as what they have now, and high rollers will be able to sit in premium seats behind one of the extra girders placed throughout the grandstand.
And it's not just the seats, though. The park's advertising will also be overhauled.
Exactly.
The CBS and Nikon camera ads will be replaced by signs for Tomlinson's Miracle Tincture and Boston Bob's Low-Speed Portraiture.
That's right, and if Pedroia hits the bullseye on Sullivan's Cafeteria billboard, everyone in attendance wins a hardtack biscuit.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they're bringing back the hole.
Oh, purists have been asking for that hole back ever since it was filled in way back in 1991.
That's right.
And the organization is making changes to the equipment as well.
That's right. The Sox will also ditch the regulation ball and replace it with a rock-filled horse bladder wrapped in butcher's paper like they used in the old days. Can't wait to see Wakefield make that horse bladder dance.
Classic. Strict dress code, too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Male fans won't be let in the park unless they're wearing a bowler three-piece suit and thick mutton chops. And ladies will have to wear no fewer than 3 petticoats. No more pink Sox hats.
And of course, there'll be no black.
That's right. The Sox were the last major league team to integrate, and they'll honor Tom Yawkey's legacy with no black players, no Latinos, no Japanese.
And other social detritus will be seated in a special section.
Yeah, it's affectionately being called the cage. Jew fans and cripples will be herded in during the third inning and allowed to leave only 3 hours after the game ends.
Soak in that Fenway atmosphere.
Will do, Mark.
All right, thanks, Jim. Next up, Jay Cutler demands a trade after none of his teammates attend his piano recital.
That gives you an idea.
You can have a laugh at the expense of Boston all you want. I don't really care. But in truth, one of the discussions we had among the three, well, the producer and the 2 wannabe producers, was, were we ever going to do anything serious in this little presentation of ours? And I had said that there is an element of baseball that you can ignore, you can close your eyes to it, they do in baseball, but it's there. And that's substance abuse. And that's been a legacy of baseball since there's been baseball. And I think, do we not?
Yeah.
I finally prevail.
Well,
we have at least one example.
This may better illustrate what we're trying to say.
Exactly. Can we run that, please?
Welcome back to Sports Dome. Tampa Bay Rays superstar Derek Magic Lamp Overstreet has been smashing records since being called up to the majors 4 years ago. But a new book written by former teammate Andy Ellis alleges that Overstreet used a performance-enhancing lamp containing a genie from 2005 to 2007. Magic Lamp had no comment before today's game against the Orioles, but a spokesman for the Rays addressed reporters earlier today.
I asked Derek point blank if he'd ever used a genie. He floated over to me on his carpet, looked me in the eye, and said no. We're confident his 850 average is not genie enhanced.
Are the allegations baseless, or has Overstreet wished away his legacy? Keep your oxygen tanks nearby. You may need them in the steam room.
The Steam Room, presented by Coke Zero. I steam, you steam, we all steam for 0-calorie Coke Zero.
Welcome to the Steam Room, where the only options are steam and more steam. Alongside OSN senior baseball analyst Jim Ridgway, I'm Tim Devan. And Jim, you're the room, I'm the steam, I'm all up in you. What are you going to do about it?
Let that steam on in.
You asked for it, the Steam Room begins now.
Jimmy, do these allegations of Genie use cast doubt on Overstreet's accomplishments?
No, I don't think so, Tim. I mean, Overstreet was a backup player until 2005. Then all of a sudden, he has 3 80-home run seasons in a row, discovers a 140-mile-per-hour fastball, and people start calling him Magic Lamp just because he carries a lamp with him everywhere he goes. That's not conclusive proof of anything.
So you're saying we ought to give Magic Lamp the benefit of the doubt?
I'm saying until we have hard evidence that Overstreet knowingly benefited from a wish-granting phantasm, he's an innocent man.
This isn't the first time that Overstreet's drawn suspicion on this. There were rumors of Genie use back in 07 when he gained 200 pounds of muscle overnight.
Which he explained was from a new regimen he started with his 20-foot-tall trainer Shayton, whose feet appeared to be a wisp of smoke.
Okay, but in Ellis's book, he says he saw Overstreet conjure a genie on 3 separate occasions, including the night that Magic Lamp threw that slider that turned Brian Hastings' bat into a serpent.
Oh, come on. There are a million reasons that could have happened.
Okay, so the commission can't suspend Magic Lamp for a rumor, but do you think the MLB's current testing policy is aggressive enough?
Absolutely. Investigators go into the clubhouse every night before a game, tossing up charm powder and looking for genie footprints. They're doing a wonderful job.
All right, Jim, it's time for the final sweat. We may not be friends after this.
A necessary sacrifice.
Does the tape from this scandal hurt Derek Overstreet's chances in the Hall of Fame plaque?
Look, I don't see how anybody can vote against a guy who broke the all-time RBI record in a single game.
Fair enough, but there is a precedent for barring suspected cheats from Cooperstown. You recall Cardinals great Jimmy Pot Gold O'Shea isn't in there, despite his record 15,000 stolen bases.
And that's a tragedy. I mean, that guy could bunt the ball out of the ballpark, literally.
Well, maybe someday. Engage steam room cooling procedures immediately. Deep breath, Jim. You survived the steam room.
So, as you can see, substance abuse in baseball is nothing to be laughed at. And did they, just a quick aside, they didn't have substance abuse during your dad's years, did they?
They had alcohol.
They had uppers too.
They had,
about August.
They did.
In August, they were getting tired. In the summer, yeah.
I'd have gotten tired in May when these guys played. Well, David, you had something you wanted to close this inning out with, as I recall.
A little bit. Now, when
The umpire, the
when an umpire makes a
dreaded
call
umpire.
for our side, we are of course thrilled because he is an ally, a friend for a moment, and he's done something important for our team. And like Rob, as a New York Met fan from the very beginning, I was actually with the Mets in 1962 with the Mets as a fan. And we went to the Polo Grounds and saw their very first game, home game, April 13th. They lost to the Pirates 8-0 that day, by the way. Just a bit of trivial history. But the place of the umpire cannot be denied in baseball. And I think we have a pretty interesting clip here that has a little bit to do with our friend Bill Marx. Is that right?
This was one of the best umpires that the major leagues ever had.
Really, a pro's pro. Dustin, let's see it.
Everybody, and here we are, folks, at the Polo Grounds for the opening game between the New York Giants and the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah.
And the start of the game has been delayed because of the lack of an umpire at home plate. But Mr. Ford Frick, the commissioner of baseball, has leaped into action and secured a substitute umpire. So we're all ready, and here we go. The starting battery for New York. Wes Westrom catching. And Jim Hearn pitching. And right now, stepping into the batter.
My man, the Duke.
And here he comes, the roughest, toughest umpire in the game, direct from Alcatraz. Going to get into the fight.
You're a bum. Eight, him, 7.
He doesn't need glasses. You need glasses. You haven't called one right all day. Why don't you get your eyes washed out? Huh? Why don't you get your eyes washed? Don't you hit me. Don't you hit me.
The great Harpo Marx, ladies and gentlemen.
Rob, that was from where?
Well, that's part of a DVD collection of the Marx Brothers on television that Mr. Marx and I produced, and just shows you don't argue balls and strikes.
Wasn't that the Martha Ray show?
It's from the Martha Ray show, and yes, those are really the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants with umpire Harpo.
And he was a good umpire.
He did perfectly well there. Yeah.
He knew how to control a game.
Did he whistle at home?
He knew how to control our family.
Well, I believe that takes us to the end of the fourth inning, does it not?
Yes. And the fifth inning is going to be something very special.
Yeah.
Our two pseudo-producers are going to get together, and they're going to give you something quite extraordinary, which you think you know, but I doubt that you've heard it completely. So let me read the full introduction to Casey at the Bat. At the beginning of our program, we asked Tom Hanks to help us make the point that nobody cries in baseball. We also made the point that those of us who love the game do laugh. Witness today. Right now, however, we'd like to demonstrate the point that in all comedy, there is tragedy. Helping us to do this is a man whose heritage makes him an expert on the subject. Bill Marx, whose father, Harpo Marx, was part of one of the most enduring and endearing comedy teams of all time, the Marx Brothers, is one half of the team of our upcoming inning, fifth inning. But first I need to ask, you wouldn't criticize a slice of really good apple pie because it didn't taste like, say, crepe Suzette, would you? In that same vein, in 1888, American poet Ernest Thayer was only trying to write a comic ballad that could be read and understood by baseball fans everywhere and laughed at by any newspaper reader who really knew and loved the sport. Little did Thayer know that he was creating a masterpiece that would transcend the ages and almost 130 years later remain an integral part of baseball lore. Oh yeah? Be a key inning in our game today. Ladies and gentlemen, with Frank Furino giving life to Ernest Thayer's words and Bill Marx providing accompaniment on the stadium organ, the Rancho Mirage Codgers proudly present Casey at the Bat.
Thank you. Am I on? Yes. Well, the outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2, with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could get but one whack at that, they'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake. And the former was a Lulu, and the latter was a fake. So upon the stricken multitude, grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. When the dust had lifted and the men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a huggin' third. Then from 5,000 throats and more, there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It knocked upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his cap. No stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then, while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered spear came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "It ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From the benches black with people, there went up a muffled roar like the beating of the storm wave on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone on the stand. And it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. The smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it. And the umpire said, "Strike two." "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echoed answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain. And they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me come on up and let me introduce you. Just to do one or two things. This is one of the most. This is a gentleman that needs no introduction. His name is Bobby Winkles. This guy has been championship. I want you to tell them first of all, Arizona State NCAA champions. He was the manager, or what, I don't know what they call it in coach, but that's the same thing. Would you, can we, this is one of the most distinguished of all baseball people in the world. He's lectured over 3,000 times in his life, and this hopefully will not be the last one.
Well, it's getting to be the last because there's one thing I've always been. There's one thing I've always been in life.
That's all right.
And it is a realist. No big stuff, everything, just a realist. And I've been hit with a little of the bad old boy. And my memory is going away. And so far, I haven't been able to do that much about it. So the main thing was I didn't want to come up here and make a rear end out of myself. Because I've done that enough in baseball. Now, there is one thing that I would like to try to tell you, and only laugh whether it's funny or not. And that is in 1987. Mr. Owner of the...
That's all right.
the owner of the Oakland Club.
Charles Finley.
He
Charlie
came
Finley.
out and I was with the Giants, and he said, I'd like to hire Bobby Winkles as my manager. They said, okay. And because in baseball, you usually, if somebody's offered a job higher, then you accept that. So we're just about to go out and get on the plane and give it the next day, and this is how fickle it is to be a manager. Mr. So-so said, hey, Bobby, you all know him. He's the meanest guy in the world. And he said, you know, Mr. Finley was his name. And he said, you know something? It's one thing I want to tell you before you come and work for me. And I said, well, good. What is it? He said, rent. Don't buy. That's right, because a year and a half later, I quit. We were 19-5 with a bunch of just kids up there. And he kept calling me in the mornings, and before Ellie and I even think about getting up, and he would tell you, oh, I don't like that guy. He can't run fast enough. He didn't know anything about the game, but he told me. So it was such a joke that every day we went in, and we were leading the league when I quit. And I said, boys, today when we get ready to go play, as you know, you don't know what the lineup is, so everybody's going to hit, not just the main guys and the other guys. But so then I left, and I went out back to our house and started making speeches again. Again, at that time, the things rolled off my tongue as good as anybody in the country. But now, they're shaky as they can be. And I admit it, but I would like to attempt one other thing, because it is a true thing. And I decided to go out when I got back from Mr. Finley. I decided to go do some speeches. And so I had an opportunity to go to two cities. One was in the middle of, and the other one was on down. So it was a golf thing outing, the first one. The lady, my wife and I, going there, and we're right in the middle of where I'm going, and the lady just happened to stumble, and all through my everything right here, every shirt, everything had you know what on it. So I run into the store because I couldn't go back, and there was a guy in the store, and he said to me, "You're Bobby Winkles, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." You know, I kind of raised up a little bit. Yeah. "You really did a good job with the Angels. They just fired you too quick." I shook a little bit more, and I said, "I got to have a shirt. I only need a little shirt. I want that shirt right there that's $5.95. He said, "Bobby," came up and he felt my neck like that. He said, "You know what? Your neck is a little scruggy. I have got a shirt in here for $29.95, and I will guarantee you the collar will never wear out." Now you've seen it here. Bill, is the collar still really good? So that's don't always take a salesman to be a hell of a bad guy, because this guy knows what he was talking about.
Now, before you go, okay, there we go. Will you just do a couple of signs for us? A couple of what? Signs, you know.
I don't even print.
Can you do a steel sign for us and just help us out a little? You know, the problem with television is more goes on between pitches in a ball game than goes on in a ball game. The signs that people are throwing, and what pitch is going to be thrown, and whatever it is, would you give me a couple of signs?
Well, I will tell you this, and Scott will tell you also, that the signs are not very difficult. I could teach ladies right here the signs right now in the Major League. I was a third base coach for like 12, 15 years when they got tired of me trying to manage. So. What you have is you have an indicator, which means, ladies, I want you to listen because I'm going to ask someone. You have an indicator, you know, when all the people are rubbing up there and all doing all that. And when I touch that indicator, then the next thing I do means to run or steal or bunt or whatever. So if I'm going down here like all this, so today my bunt sign, ready to sign for bunting, is going to be skin to skin. So I'm going to go like this, I never go like that. Like this, back here, over here, and then when I go there, what's going to happen, ladies? Next thing I do is what you're going to do. You're going to run or whatever the heck you're supposed to do. And then if we want to take it off, we will have another sign. So, and the other thing I'd like to tell you is, don't keep yelling at the third base guy. He doesn't have a damn thing to do with it. Whenever he runs through a sign or something, everybody says, oh, that's easy. That's dreadful. The manager's the one that don't play. So, whenever...
Well, they really go through them fast, though. They go...
Oh, yeah, they go like that, here and there, and then you go that, and then you go to that, and then you go a little bit more, because if the other guy's watching you, if he can see it every time you stop, that's what you do. You're a dead duck. So you have to just keep going, and then something like that. We had a guy named Campaneris, wonderful ball player and a great guy, and he couldn't get a sign. We're playing the first game of, I'd hate to tell all you people, but I was the third base coach when we beat the Dodgers in 1974.
All right, let's move right along, Bobby, okay? Moving right along.
And what happened with Campy?
So what happened was there, well, Dick Green got a base hit. Campy was hitting second. And who was your pitcher in that day? You got him from the... He's a great pitcher, and he loved to pitch, and he'd get you over. He'd get you in the bars about 2 hours later. And that's an unusual thing nowadays. That the people that will go have a drink, he would do it in 2 years. It would be 2 hours. And
Andy Messer.
And he would like to get out of the park and get going. Here is campus. And the day, my sign that particular day was the skin to skin, like I said, and I had to do them alphabetically for them to have a chance to get them. So this would be bunt, and this would be hit and run, and this would be steal. So we know we're going to bunt because Dick Green got a walk. So we're going to walk because Fraser Smith, he don't leave you much to hit. So he's up there, and I'm giving him all these just like this, here. And I go skin to skin, and I count. I said, bunt. Yeah, happy goes. I don't know what I did. It wasn't very fast, but I'll here, and I do about 4 more, and can't be doing. And she said, "Hey, it's Cappy, goddammit, he wants you to buy."
Bobby Winkles, ladies and gentlemen, the great Bobby Winkles. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I this thing, but it just got me a little bit.
Well,
I'm a little sad about it, but what can you do? Hello.
Here, here. Thank you.
Hey, you know, Bill, you know, one of the malaprops my dad said about baseball was, he says, the great thing about baseball is that you never know what's going on.
And Bobby somewhat proved that for us. Thank you, Mr. Winkles.
Bobby, there's a new shirt out in the lobby for you. Love to Ellie.
Bobby Winkles.
Love to Ellie. What are we doing?
Well, I think we were
going to have
David,
an intermission. Why don't we do an intermission? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll take us to the 7th
That'll
inning.
take us to a brief intermission. This is based upon how many movies have come out, baseball movies. Oh my God. Monty Stratton, Lou Gehrig, all of the things. It's come to television now. And this is a teaser for a new television series that's coming on that's going to have to do with baseball and mystery. Let's take a look at it.
I think
It'll be
this
on
is
your
gonna,
television very soon.
I think this is going to replace the Kardashians, I've heard.
Reality.
Drama. The show USA Today calls a tasty blend of sports drama and police procedural. The team that plays together cracks the case together.
Case on our hands. Got another body for you. Pretty gruesome. Couldn't be much worse than my ERA.
The Arrows are in first place, but they have a new case on their hands. And a new manager.
That's 3 losses in a row, Masters. Get your head in the game. A girl is dead.
I say someone's throwing us a curveball. But I can hit those. Killer was left-handed. See the blood splatter?
You know forensics?
I know lefties.
This season, the Arrows face a threat from within.
There's a killer on this team. You're losing it.
It's my way or the highway, Masters. Now let's solve this murder.
Let's play ball.
And one of the player investigators becomes the victim.
Who are you?
Came too close, Masters.
The OSN original late inning drama. You won't believe the final score.
Now, you can laugh, but you know there's somebody in Hollywood going, you know? I think. Well, ladies and gentlemen, David, do you want to take us?
Well, we are ready now for our 7th inning stretch. If everybody would like to get up, stretch a little bit.
Friends, I told you that my partner would be here, and here he is. Didn't you expect him, did you? Now, he always shapes up. Now, why not let the folks themselves ask for something that they like to hear?
All right, what would they like to hear?
Something different. Now,
Okay.
is there anything special that you would like to hear us do?
Baseball.
No, wait a minute, friends. You don't want to hear that, do you?
Yeah, we got the props for you here. Well, you came prepared, didn't you?
All set, huh? Well, this is a must. I guess it's a must. We've got to do it. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me see. It looks all right.
Okay, all
Now,
right.
we'll pretend. We'll just pretend. All right, I'll take it easy with that. We'll just pretend that we're organizing a baseball team here at the retired actors' home. And I am the manager. Now...
You're going to be the manager of the retired actors baseball team?
Yes.
I would like to join the retired actors baseball team.
Oh, you would?
And I would like to know some of the guys' names on the team, so if I want to play with them, I'll know them, and I meet them on the street or in the home here, I can say hello to them.
Oh, sure. But you know they give baseball players nowadays very peculiar names.
I know, a lot of funny names.
You know, like Sticky Fields.
Sticky Fields.
Goofy Dan.
Booby Barber.
Booby Barber.
I know all those.
But let's see now. We have on our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out, the guy's name. That's what I want to find out, the guy's name.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Now, Abbott, you going to be the manager of the baseball team?
Yes.
You know the guy's names?
Well, I should.
Well, you tell me the guy's names on the baseball team.
I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me.
I'm telling him.
You ain't said nothing yet. Go ahead and tell me.
Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
You know the guy's names on the baseball team?
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the guy's name.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
Now, wait a minute,
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's his name.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
That's it. That's his name.
Well, you ain't said nothing. I ain't asked you nothing.
You did.
You know the guy's name on first base?
Sure.
Well, tell me the guy's name on first base.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who is on first, Lou?
What are you asking me for?
Don't get excited. I'm saying who.
I'm asking you a simple question. Who's on first?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who? I'm asking you, what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What's on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
One base at a time now.
Don't mix up my...
I'm not mixing up anybody. Now, what's the guy's name on first base?
No, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who is on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking. Wait a minute. Whoa. No, well, that's not...
Whoa. How did I get on third base?
You mentioned his name.
I mentioned his name?
Yes.
I don't know anybody's name on the team. How could I mention a guy's name?
You did. You just mentioned it.
All right, what's the guy's name on third base?
No, what's on second?
Who's on second?
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on first.
See what I mean? I didn't even mention a guy's name on third base.
Yes, you did.
All right, then who's playing third base?
No, who's on first?
I'm not asking you what's on first.
What's on second?
Who's on second?
Who's on first?
I don't know. He's third base. I don't know anybody on a baseball team.
You do. You mention their names.
I do?
Sure.
You got an outfield?
Well, naturally.
The left fielder's name.
Why?
I just thought I'd ask you. I just thought I'd ask you.
Well, I just thought I'd tell you.
Well, go ahead. Tell me.
Tell you what?
The left fielder's name.
Why?
Because I want to know. Because.
Oh, he's center field. You know these players as well as
Who's
I.
in center field?
Now, who's on first?
What's on first?
What's on second?
I don't know. Third base. Do you know the guy's names on the team?
Look, Louis, you don't seem to understand. See, I have a first baseman.
I know you got a first.
Gets his-
I asked you what's the first. I asked you what's the first baseman's name.
No, what's the second baseman?
I'm going to stop asking you, sir. I asked you what's the first baseman's name.
What's the second baseman?
I don't even get past the first. All right, who's on second?
Who's on first?
What base do you want to talk about?
You talk about anyone you want to talk about.
All right, now who's on first?
Right.
Okay.
No.
All right, you got a first baseman. When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. Every dollar of it.
Who gets it?
He does. Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. Why not, Lou? He's earned it.
Who did?
Yes.
Look, when you pay off the first baseman every month, you get a receipt from the guy?
Sure.
How does he sign his name?
Who?
The guy you give the money to.
Who?
The guy you give the money to.
Well, that's how he signs it.
That's
Lou.
how who signs it?
Yes.
Go ahead, tell me.
That's it.
Who? Look, you go to first base,
Yes.
and you say to him, here's your money, sign the receipt. How does he sign his name?
Who?
The guy you give the money to.
That's how he signs it.
That's how who signs it?
Yes.
Sure. You gotta get a receipt from the guy, don't you?
Get one, Lou.
How does the guy on first base sign his name?
Who?
The guy on first.
That's how he signs it.
I'm asking, when you give the guy the money, what's the guy's name that you give the money to?
Now, wait a minute. What signs his own?
Who signs his own?
No, who signs his?
I mean, what's the guy's name on first you give
What
the...
is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know. Third base. The fielder's name, the center field. I don't know if you got a pitcher on the team.
Well, this will be a fine team without a pitcher.
It's a fine team. The pitcher's name.
Tomorrow.
You don't want to tell me the day?
I can't change that name.
You don't want to tell me the day?
I'm telling you.
Go ahead. Tell me the pitcher's name.
Tomorrow.
Why not tell me today? I ain't going to wait tomorrow. Then tell me the pitcher's name.
Tomorrow.
All right. What time tomorrow you tell me the pitcher's name?
What time what?
What time tomorrow you going to tell me who's pitching?
Who is not pitching?
I'll break you around, you see who's on first. I want to know what's the pitcher's name.
What's on second?
I don't know. Third base. Third base. Third base. You You got a catcher?
Certainly you've got a catcher on a baseball team.
Catcher's name?
Today.
Today. Tomorrow's pitching, today's catcher.
Now you've got it.
Now I got it. We got a couple of days on the team, that's all.
I can't help that, Lou. I don't.
You know, I'm a pretty good catcher myself.
So they tell me.
Yeah, now I get behind the plate and I'm going to do some fancy catching, and tomorrow's pitching on my team, right?
Yeah.
Now tomorrow he winds up the ball and I'm behind the plate and the heavy hitter gets up.
Yeah.
Now the heavy hitter gets up and he's ready to hit the ball, and tomorrow's going to throw the ball. I'm the catcher. Now when tomorrow throws the ball, the guy up bunts the ball. Now when he bunts the ball, me being a good catcher, I want to throw the guy out of first base, so I pick up the ball and throw it to who?
Now that's the first thing you've said right.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's all you have to do.
Is to throw the ball at first base.
Yes.
Now who's got it?
Naturally.
Sure. Look, the guy is running at first base, but I want to throw the guy out. So I throw the ball to who?
Naturally.
I throw it to who?
Naturally.
And who's got it?
Naturally.
So I pick up the ball and I throw it to Natural.
No. You throw the ball to first base, then who gets it?
Naturally.
That's it. Now you've got it.
Same thing. I pick up the ball, so I throw it to Natural.
You don't.
I throw it to who?
Naturally.
That's what I'm saying! I said I throw the ball to who?
Naturally.
You asked me.
You throw the ball to who?
Naturally. Same as you!
Say it that
I throw the ball to Naturally.
You don't. You throw it to who?
Now who's got it? Naturally. That's what I said. Whoever it is better get it. That's all I can tell you.
Don't worry about who.
Who'll get it?
Yes.
He better get it.
All right.
Now, I throw the ball to whoever it is, drops the ball, so the guy runs a second. Who picks up the ball and throws the what? What throws the I don't know, throws it back to Tamar. Triple play.
Could be.
Another guy gets up and it's a long fly ball to because. Why? I don't know. He's on third, and I don't give a darn. I said, I don't give a darn.
Oh, that's our shortstop.
Ladies and gentlemen, we entertained ourselves more watching this thing, and you have to ask yourself, how they come up with it and the timing of it, which made it what it is, the absolute timing. I would love to have been there when they conceived it and wrote it, because that'd be a lot of booze involved.
It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. It still has the impact like the first time.
It makes you laugh.
Many years ago, I bought a coffee mug at the Baseball Hall of Fame that has the entire routine transcribed on it. And the print it's a big coffee mug, but the print's really small. And as I've gotten older, like by the time I needed bifocals, I could only read it if the person across the table was drinking out of it. But it's just, I occasionally just read the coffee mug and I laugh. It's just great.
Well,
so who's next?
don't go there. Thank you.
Okay, for our 8th inning, we are going to talk about some of the things that defy categorizing in baseball. They are uncategorizable.
But yet we've categorized
Well,
them.
as Ralph Kiner said, that's the great thing about baseball. You never know what's going on. And some of the things you're about to see really are captured by that phrase. We really don't quite know what's going on, but we're going to enjoy it. And these are memorable moments without category.
Get fooled again? Ozzie Guillen has him. Look.
He throw to first. Hitting Guillen back. Guillen's out! He took his hand off the bat.
The hidden ball trick.
Half faked the throw back to the pitcher. He really didn't think Ozzie was going to move.
Poor old Ozzie. First he gets it from Greg Brock, and then he has to contend with the master, Dave Bergman.
And he's out. That's the second time Ozzie Guillen has had that happen to him this season. Trying to get up, he comes off the bag before the first baseman gets rid of the baseball. This is insult to injury, though. Watch how he hits him in the end.
By Jay to center. Holiday fly to deep center. And he's out. How about that? Helton faked him out. The old veteran acted like he threw it back to the pitcher, kept it in his back pocket. Carpenter was off the bag and he tagged him. Take a look here. Uh-oh.
You can't do that with a football.
That these people still need and that we can help with directly. So we hope you'll be a part of it.
All right, Emily, thank you. In the meantime, the hidden ball trick worked. As Matt Stasi and beating a throw that was errant.
You get picked off like that, that's the longest walk
Ian Kinsler
back.
backing it up, and in fact, Stasi was safe at second and then kind of wandered off the bag, thinking that Frazier had the ball in hand. And Ian Kinsler said, "Gotcha."
Now Jason gets it in time. He throws off balance, wild. It bounces off Elvis's glove to Ian. Stasi has no idea who's got the ball. I think he thinks Elvis has the ball because it went off Elvis's glove. He wanders off the bag, and Ian comes up behind him and touches it.
And the runner, Chris, was going. He slipped, goes back to first. Astros try to pick him off, and the ball goes down the right field line, and Coco Crisp is going to be waved home, and it's stuck under the padding. J.D. Martinez is trying to pick it up. He couldn't get it out of there. There is a baseball under there somewhere, folks.
How did it go under there? That was just a ball rolling down the right field line.
Well, Coco Crisp is heading for the dugout. He said, "I just scored." The umpires really never raised their hand and called timeout.
Gave a whole new meaning to the hidden ball
That's
trick.
amazing to watch.
And now they're going to get together and see what happened here. J.D. Martinez, we cannot see the ball when it goes into the corner from our view.
Just question are they going to make him go back to second base because he's already at third, so at least you figured he's got to get to third base.
Now, we may get a better idea here of just what happened down that right field line. So there's the ball, and it does disappear. So they're going to put him back at third. So it wasn't like he kicked it under there or anything. It did.
Yeah. Only in baseball. You couldn't do that hidden ball trick in football either.
It's not quite the hidden ball trick, but you can't run videos of inept baseball without discussing briefly the 62 Mets. And Bill asked me to remind people of this story. It's pretty legendary, but there was a ball player on the 62 Mets named Marv Throneberry. The name probably resonates for
Marvelous.
Marvelous Marv. And the story is he actually gave himself the nickname. He put a sign on his own locker so the reporters would ask him about it. And he wasn't terrible, but he became terrible as a Met. And he hit one of the rare, what was going to be a home run that put the Mets ahead in the game. And the other team did an appeal play at first base, which they were saying he didn't step on the bases. He rounded the bases, so he'd be out. And in truth, he didn't, so they called him out. And Casey Stengel came out to argue, and he was going crazy. And the second base umpire casually walked over to him and said, "Casey, don't argue so much. He didn't touch second either."
He's not accustomed to winning home runs.
No. And that takes us to...
That brings us to the fact, I don't know if I'm on here. Yeah, I guess I am. That brings us to the fact that baseball has no boundaries. There's no height restrictions, or if you can play baseball, no matter who you are and how you may feel. And this next couple of clips are going to define what I'm saying. I think you'll understand why.
In the first inning, Vex sent in a pinch hitter, Eddie Goodell, a midget who stood just 3 feet 7 inches tall. His strike zone was said to measure 1 1/2 inches. Vex told Goodell that a man in the stands with a high-powered rifle would shoot him if he swung at a pitch. Goodell obeyed. The Tiger pitcher walked him on 4 straight pitches, all of them high.
Ah, yes. Anybody recognize the guy on the left? Guy on the right? How many of you know Jimmy Pearsall, or of him? Jimmy was a very interesting character in baseball, and this is a serious note. He was plagued with all kinds of problems, emotional, psychological, through his playing career. He played for 5 different teams, including the Red Sox and the Washington Senators. And he had, eventually, he played his way into being institutionalized. I mean, and he did some things that in the day, I mean, even today, he came up to home plate once with a Beatles wig on, playing air guitar. He was in center field one day, and he started to have an imaginary conversation with Babe Ruth. Ultimately, you knew that a man like that was going to get traded to the Mets.
Where he was embraced as the perfect Met for a couple of years.
He was the perfect Met. And he came to the Mets, I believe in '62, and it was with the Mets that he hit his 100th home run. And there is this folklore that because he wanted to do something weird, he ran the bases backwards, third, second, first. He did not do that, but he did run backwards, first, second, third, home. He did it all backwards.
But he did it legally, because had he done it the other way, he'd have been called out for missing first base.
Exactly.
But he ran with his back to the base the whole way around.
Ran all the way around. I, at the time, was a young intern for ABC Sports in New York. And across the street, ABC at that time had buildings all over New York. They weren't as centralized as they are. But they had one of their buildings on Central Park West and West 66th. And across the street on West 67th was an infamous bar called the Café des Artistes. And for those who toiled at ABC, whenever they weren't doing anything and had the time, they'd run across the street and have a little tip or two. And one night, I'm this kid, and I'm just there with some friends and happy to be in the company of these luminaries. Ted Koppel was there at the time, and that ilk of Harry Reasoner. In any case, here comes Howard Cosell with Jimmy Pearsall. And they go to the bar, and nobody paid much attention to him, except you could not ignore Cosell. And if he felt he was being ignored, he had to make himself known. And all of a sudden, you hear this conversation. And Cosell had a sports show on the local WABC TV station at the time. And they were about to do that show. And all of a sudden, you hear Cosell. Well, Jim, in about 5 minutes, you and I are going to cross the street, get on camera, and thrill millions of New Yorkers as we scintillating commentary. Then he's going on and on. And Pearsall was just standing there and finally, this is it, Jim, we go. And he walked out, and they came right past our table. And as they passed our table, not to me because I was a kid, but to the other people, Pearsall leaned down and said, and they put me away. True story.
You know, since that story takes place in a bar, I think I wanted to mention a couple of other things about Ralph Kiner. And if anyone's from New York, you've probably heard of a bank called Manufacturers Hanover. They were the sponsor of Kiner's Corner for several years. And Ralph once said, "We'll be right back after this word from Manufacturers Hangover." And that ties into another wonderful moment with Ralph when Budweiser was a Mets sponsor, and he used to have to read the disclaimer. And one night he said, "Our friends at Budweiser like to remind you to drink responsively."
Scott should have been around.
Yeah, he was going to tell those, and since he had to leave, I thought I would steal them from him. So
David,
he left us his Cracker Jacks.
I think that you're up.
I was going.
Or is it?
No, whatever it is. I just wanted to mention that you saw Eddie Goodell a little bit earlier, and he was brought in by Bill Veeck, who was a man who had only one leg, and he himself was infirmed in that way. He was one of the most important big league owners ever, and when he had a lousy team, he had to figure a way to get the people into the stands, and Eddie Goodell was one of them, and he was an innovator in inviting people to play that could play the game. And I would like you to know that
Here.
Yeah.
I was a Ned Garver George Sisler fan in 1943. I would like to turn your attention to this next film clip.
World War II changed things on the home front too, as pro baseball scrambled to replace the able-bodied young men who had switched from pinstripes to khaki for the duration. Retired players returned to the league and others joined them. War veteran Bert Shepard played one game for the Washington Senators despite an artificial leg. And courageous one-armed Pete Gray batted .218 and played outfield in 77 games for the St. Louis Browns.
And probably one of the most amazing feats of sports history came about, I don't know, about 15 years ago, wasn't it about it?
A little longer than that.
Maybe 20 years ago. And this was very special. Very few people can do this, and even the way that Jim Abbott could.
Indians have not had a man past first base. Baerga batting .318. And the ground ball to short. Velarde. He did it. He did it. No hitter for Jim Abbott. Jim Abbott throws a no-hitter and shuts out the Cleveland Indians 4-0. Mobbed by his teammates. A big hug from Matt Noakes. Jim Abbott has just no-hit the Cleveland Indians.
The next time your wife asks you to clean the garage and you say, "Oh, my back hurts a little bit," think about Jim Abbott.
Yeah. That was a moment for all of baseball. Really, every baseball fan appreciated that. It was a Yankee moment, certainly, but it was really a baseball moment. And his courage and just the quality of his humanity is quite remarkable. Somebody we miss. I don't know what Jim Abbott's doing now. I'm not sure where his career has led him, but he's a terrific, terrific guy.
Yeah, I just want to say something about Jim Abbott, because when he was active, when he first came up, they thought he's not going to be a good fielder, and a lot of teams bunted on him, and he was a great fielder. He probably was one of the best fielders in the American League at the time, because he learned his whole life to overcompensate because he knew guys were going to do that. He was a great athlete.
But that move that he had to do, Rob, was incredible with the glove and we saw it also with the.
Pete Gray did the same thing.
Pete Gray did the same thing. Yeah. It's almost a hidden ball trick.
But he was so quick coming off the mound as a fielder. It was remarkable because he just spent his whole life having to do that.
So to continue on with a little bit of Yankee lore here, though we're not in Yankee land, the great Lou Gehrig is our next topic, and the Iron Man of baseball, who it almost looked like his record of consecutive games would never be topped by anybody, but it of course was, and by Cal Ripken Jr. And there's even a rumor that Cal Ripken Jr. probably wouldn't have broken Lou Gehrig's record if the power company in Baltimore hadn't turned out the lights at Camden Field. I mean, I've heard that before. Have any of you heard that urban lore? That the power went out at Camden Field and a game was canceled that Cal Ripken most likely would not have played. So you can take that home and digest it and Wikipedia it and see if there's any truth to it. But back to Lou Gehrig, his courage, his humility, and his final Yankee game is just one for the ages, and that's what we're going to show you now, his famous speech.
For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about a bad brag. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. When you look around, wouldn't you consider it privilege to associate yourself with such a fine-looking man as is standing in uniform in this ballpark today? That I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thank you.
He was an incredible man. And so, that brings us, since we're wallowing in Yankee land, he said,
Yogi.
To Yogi. We went through this whole day and didn't mention the incredible Mr. Berra.
Did you notice that he was playing left field?
That was a surprise to me.
went
I'd
out?
forgotten that.
I did
It
too.
showed that it was a surprise.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was that much of a fielder.
Well, he was an incredible all-around. I mean, we also, when we were doing our Ralph Kiner versus Jerry Coleman, we could have thrown Yogi in there. I mean, Yogi said some things that defied description.
May I say one?
Please.
90% of the game is half mental.
And one that fits our audience, and we love having you here. We had expected a slightly bigger crowd, I confess. And that is my favorite yogiism. If people don't want to come to the ballpark, you can't stop them.
Well,
it's not the hate, it's
nobody,
the humility.
Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
And the Rancho Mirage, perfect fit yogiism is, it gets late early around here.
And my favorite yogi, you see a fork in the road, take it. Well, but we laugh about Yogi, but he was immortalized, as a matter of fact.
Another important moment in Yankee history.
Baseball, in Yankee history. They actually immortalized you. I think we have the video of Yogi being immortalized in a way that other players would kill.
That's after this one, I think.
Oh, this is the Yogi Larson. Forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself.
There's actually something else interesting about this. This was another lost World Series film that someone found a few years ago. And the last out of both of these games is Yogi watching the ball sail over the wall. And
really,
as you'll
let's run that. Let's see that.
Larson is ready, gets the sign. 2 strikes, ball 1. Here comes the pitch. Strike 3. A no-hitter, a perfect game for Don Larson. Yogi Berra runs out there. He leaps on Larson, and he's
We won't talk about who he threw it against.
Listen to this crowd roar. The first World Series no-hitter, a perfect performance by Don Larson.
He played. That was against the Pirates, wasn't it?
No, that was against.
I don't know who.
That was against the Dodgers.
That was
No,
1956.
No, I swear to God, it was against the Pirates. The Dodgers could not have been
no-hitter
Thank you.
Dodgers, of course.
Thank you.
And as far as the Lou Gehrig record, Yogi said, you know, I always thought that records would stand until they were broken.
And then, of course, now we get to where I was jumping ahead.
There you go.
Where he.
Well, this is. I don't know how many people know about this, but because Yogi was such an outstanding player, and of course he had all of these malaprops and all these crazy sayings, they decided to do something really special for him. Let's take a look.
Take a look at that.
The Dome is turning to Florida, where the Yankees are honoring the legendary Yogi Berra with a nude statue outside of the team's facility. Captured in his most recognizable pose, the statue honors Berra's brazenness and tendency to walk around naked without explanation during Yankee spring training games.
He walked into the studio entirely naked, no clothes with him. You know, I don't know how he got here without getting arrested. He didn't even introduce himself, just gestured at his naked genitals and said, "Don't do me wrong," like Michelangelo did David.
And you know, we've talked a lot about our Cultural Commission today, which is bringing you this program and inspired us to do this. Cultural Commission has cultural as its very first name.
One of our producers is shaking his head.
I'm just pretending to be a producer. Don't we want to know the guy that did this? That wrote that?
Yeah, I think you've jumped ahead just
Yeah,
a tad.
you're jumping ahead. That's
You
why we
just
made
moved
you
ahead.
a substitute producer and not the producer.
When we take you home after this, we'll explain some of the small errors that were made. But you
Okay.
did jump ahead.
Then I retract this.
Okay. Play it backwards if you could.
Okay.
Please. Now, back to the point of this aimless sentence I'm trying to construct.
It's the ninth inning, so
we're
let's
bringing
be,
you culture at this moment. We've had 8 and some thirds innings of beating around the bush. Now we're going to get to the cultural moment of this afternoon.
And I argued this because I thought it was a little too serious.
No, this is, our audience needs this and they will love this. A symphony helps everybody.
And I believe that was a grand slam. And it was a grand slam. And that means the Codgers win. Well, we're at the tail end of the game, ladies and gentlemen, and I think there was one last little piece of baseball lore with which we wanted to impart to the audience. Am I correct?
Ed Sullivan Show?
The Ed Sullivan Show. You want to take that, Bill?
No, I just think it'll speak for itself. There are some ball players you will remember on this very special show. The man that wrote "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" is in this show. Let's take a look.
Bill, you got to play us in, Bill. Ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back, and we'll root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Ta-da! Somehow, I don't know, we struck out. I believe it's a strikeout. We
had a grand slam home run.
We had a grand slam home run for you, ladies and gentlemen.
I think Ed Sullivan was on strike.
Thank you all. We had a good time. We hope you did. Thank you.